Welcome to the first ever fish chat. This is the first episode of this. It's going to be a new kind of talk show thing I do. So I'll just be answering questions, talking about different topics that I've noticed, and just kind of doing a little basic discussion video. So that's what it's going to be. If you have anything you want me to talk about, any questions you have, just comment below. I promise I'll get to that in the next video. And so let's get right into this first fish chat. So the first thing I want to touch on, and I'm sure you've noticed this if you watch any of my other videos or if you just looked over my channel, I do a lot of carp fishing. So the carp scene in America, if you're a viewer from the UK, it's very, very different. We do not have, pay lakes or any of this. Nobody really fishes for them. There's a small group of anglers in the U.S. who actually fish for carp. However, that number is growing, so hopefully we can get the sport recognized as really right up there with the bass. Carp are world-renowned sport fish, and if you're an American angler, I really urge you to support this and go out and try and catch a carp. Watch some of my videos, learn how, and I promise you will have so much fun doing it. So the general beliefs in America about carp, I know that this used to be what I think too. I think everybody kind of grows up like this, is that carp are trash fish. That's what everybody thinks, and frankly it's not true. You go out there and you try and catch them. They are smart, they are big, they're powerful, they're everywhere, and they're just a very formidable fish, and they get huge, and they're smart. So really, every fish people want to catch is a carp, because they are strong, they are smart, and they are hard to catch. So I don't really know what more you'd want in a fish. But anyway, like I said, most people grow up thinking that they're trash fish and they're no good to catch or eat or whatever. They are no good to eat, I will say that right now. So catch and release. You're not going to do any help by killing them. There are so many carp in the U.S. that killing one will not make a difference. In fact, catch and release carp fishing would be really great, because I know there's a lot of people who kill their catch, and that's just not good, because you never get the opportunity to catch big 20, 30, even 40-pound fish, and that's a very real possibility if we just protect these fish. So I grew up with this belief that carp were no good, and I started carp fishing because I wanted to get them out, but I had no clue how. I kept trying different stuff, and I just had no idea. So I started watching videos of the carp fishermen in the UK, where they're up there with as Americans treat bass, and I learned how to catch these fish, and over time just catching them more and more, and just I grew to love them, and now I'm a full-time, pretty much all I fish for is carp. I've got all the modern carp fishing equipment, and it's an addiction. Carp fishing is totally an addiction. So that's the carp scene in America. Our waters are virtually unfished. We have so many fish in there. Nobody knows what the biggest fish in America is. It can be huge. It could be a new world record. Nobody knows, because just nobody fishes for them. So if you're in the UK and you've got some money and time, please come over to the US and do some carp fishing. There's a ton of great lakes you can fish, and you'll have a really good time. And if you're in America, give it a shot. They're really great fish if you just give them a chance. And carp lives matter, so do not kill your catch. And now the next topic is my top 4 summer baits. Now, in the summer, bass fishing is, it's hot. Like the weather, it is hot. So you have to change your tactics. You're not going to really be catching them like you do in the spring or fall. So a big factor, other than the weather, is the water you're fishing. Now, if I'm fishing a weedy lake, I'm not going to throw a crankbait or something like that. I'm going to fish, a soft plastic weedless rig. So I'm going to start listing off now my top baits. So if you're fishing in a rock bottom, very clear lake that you don't have any obstructions, definitely a crankbait is the way to go. This little guy right here is the LJ Pilot XDR. It's a very good crankbait, runs about 2 foot deep, and it's got a very good action to it. As you can see, it's a really fat body, so it puts out a lot of vibration. I caught 2 fish within 10 minutes on this bait up at Lake Carroll in northwestern Illinois. Really good, good bait, and just really recommend this if you're fishing over a clean bottom. My next lure I would point out to, if you cannot fish a crankbait and it's really weedy, thick cover, stuff like that, my next option would be a paddle tail swim bait. Paddle tail swim baits are great. As you can see, I've got this one rigged with a weight on the hook. You can rig these weightless. I did that in the spawn, fishing them over beds. They do really well. And white seems to be the color for my area because there's a lot of shad, and this just mimics them perfectly. And just use the color that reflects the bait fish in your area, and I promise you, you will catch very well on one of these baits. And then another good tactic for fishing thick cover or just fish that aren't really feeding is the good old Gary Yamamoto Senko. Now these are just awesome little baits. They've been around forever. Everybody knows about Senkos. So I definitely recommend these for any situation where there's thick cover or the fish are just tight jaw and they're not going to feed. This will usually get a reaction because it's got that awesome action. So it's my top 3. Now my very top bait, my favorite one to fish in the summer, has got to be a topwater style bait. Topwaters are just so fun to fish in the summer months because fish are active, they're right near the surface, there's a lot of commotion going on there. It just can be an action-packed way to fish in the summer, and that's what I usually do in the evenings. I'm always fishing a topwater, and usually fishing a frog or this walk the dog style bait, and it's just a really great way to catch fish in the summer. Now for topwater, I'm usually going to be throwing it with braided line. This is actually fluoro on a heavy rod. This is a medium heavy. Now the reason I'm going with fluoro and a medium heavy rod is because I was fishing at a really clear lake and there weren't really a whole lot of weeds, so I didn't have to have that extra power to pull them out of the weeds. But this is definitely my top fishing tactic in the summer for bass. It's topwater all day, every day. And now, speaking of summer tactics, I'm going to turn it over to the carp. Carp fishing in the summer was a struggle for me last year, and that was like the first year that I was really getting into carp fishing. And one day I just figured it out. Went out and pre-baited one evening, saw a lot of fish, but they weren't feeding, and so pre-baited the spot, and then I came back early in the morning, I mean like 5 o'clock, sun hadn't even risen yet, and I caught fish all morning until about 9 o'clock when the sun was actually up. Fish just shut down and they were not going to feed until the following night. So getting out there in the morning is just all I do. I do not bother going in the middle of the day because I know that those fish are just not going to be feeding. So another thing that I'd like to touch on with the fishing for carp in the summer is that a lot of people fish with a ton of bait out there, big beds of bait. You don't have to do that. A light sprinkling of bait just to keep them feeding overnight will work fine. You can fish little PVA bags. I don't bother fishing big bags or big stick mixes. Little sticks, just a little bit to cover the hook and get it out there without it getting tangled up on weeds is all you really need. I fish very simple rigs, just popped up corn about an inch or two off the bottom, or a blowback style rig with a few kernels on the hair. Just really simple, and you will catch a lot. I had a 6-fish morning, only spent like 2 hours out there yesterday, and just really great time fishing. And I caught a 15-pounder which I wasn't really expecting, and that's a pretty decent fish around here. It's my second, my runner-up PB. So just simple fishing, getting out there early, pre-baiting the night before. It works for me, and it should work for you. Just don't even bother fishing in the heat of the day. Those fish are not going to be biting. And next I want to talk about the merits of a kayak. Kayaks are great. I've had one now for 2 months, been doing a ton of fishing on that. Should be getting a video out shortly about some of my sessions on the kayak, and they're great. You can get them, you can take them anywhere. You don't cost nearly as much as a boat. You can strap them to the top of your car. Big lakes, small lakes, ponds, creeks, rivers, anywhere you can fish with a kayak. And my kayak was less than $200, so you're not dropping thousands of dollars on a boat. You can just get a kayak, and I have not had any problem with storage. I can fit all my tackle on my kayak. I got 3 rods that I put on there, and I have a Triton Angler kayak. I'll leave a link in the description below to that and to the video I made on my kayak, and it's just a really great way to fish. I encourage you, if you want to get off the bank and just fish at a whole different level, get yourself a kayak. It's cheap, it's easy, and they're just great little fishing tools. And lastly, I just want to touch on a little trip I had a couple of weeks back to Virginia Beach in Virginia on the Atlantic coast. Had a great time out there fishing for spadefish. Cobia, didn't actually catch any cobia, sadly, and big sharks. So caught a big 7-foot, 300-pound sand tiger shark, which is, the fight, really big fight. It's like pulling up a big sack of concrete blocks. So it was great fishing, and it was all thanks to Aquaman Charters. They're very good captains there, and they just put you on the fish, and they do everything you need. You can be out there if you're a pro or you've never fished before. They're really great guys. Definitely check them out at Aquaman Fishing Charters in Virginia Beach. They have a very clean boat, very comfortable, air-conditioned boat, which was definitely something we needed because it was really hot out there. And because it was so hot, and this was in mid-June, I really encourage you to go either in the fall or the early spring, because summer fishing, while it is fun, it is very hot. So be ready to deal with the heat. So that's all for the first fish chat, and I'm very excited to be doing this now. I'll be posting videos more regularly, and if you want anything to be talked about, any questions you have, please leave a comment below, and I will definitely get to that in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next fish chat.